you guys for joining us tonight. You know, with the ever-changing landscape of this school year, we thought it might be good to just have some time to engage, share some information as far as some of the changes with our hybrid 2.0 system that we've started up this week, and then also give an opportunity for parents to ask questions. I've got some of my team on with us here tonight. So I've got Dr. Christine Funk, Leanna Finn, a couple of our administrators. I've also got some of our counseling team. I see Andrea Christensen and Dennis Vega. And then I know some other counselors may be jumping on as well, but they are also in the middle of conferences too. So anyway, we will do our best to provide you what you need to know, and then we'll have an opportunity at the end here for some questions as well. So we'll jump right in. So, you know, I think one of the things from this year that has been great is all the humor that we've come up with all the memes and the things of trying to make light of the situation that we found ourselves in. So a little meme there for you. I was dying laughing earlier looking at this. I think in our household, you know, with having quarantines or things like that, we're just trying to make it, you know, coming up with educational chore charts and things like that. We did try it at one point, and you know, it lasted a little while, but yeah, I think we've all been trying to figure out how to make this work the best we can. So I know that you and your families have been doing that as well. So what we're going to look through tonight is our hybrid schedule, some of the expectations for us as we have gone back to hybrid, give you some tips as well as some resources and ways that you and your students have support throughout this. And at the end, like I said, we'll have some time for some Q&A. So Janelle Winders, one of our other counselors, has jumped on with us here. So thanks, Janelle. All right, so first off, talking about our schedule. I know we've sent this out in an email, and I know it's been on our website. And so some of this stuff may be a little bit redundant, but just FYI for you guys, because you now have kids at home who are following this schedule as well on their days that they're home. So the schedule is here as is shown on the screen. So, and this is posted on our website. If you click on hybrid learning, on the main page of our website, it'll take you to a full page that has a lot of this information. But basically, we're going back to the same bell schedule we had before winter break, when we were in hybrid before last semester. So it's 3-minute passing periods. You know, obviously with kids at home, there's some grace to have a little bit of a buffer time to jump on. But ideally, if they could jump on as soon as class does start, that would be great. I know for some teachers, they've given a little bit of that grace period for them to hop on and make sure that they are to be counted for attendance. But that's our bell schedule. So 7:25 to 2:40 still, with that 25-minute break for lunch in the middle. And, you know, ELT Wildcat time is still something we're doing. And, you know, obviously teachers have communicated kind of what their expectations are for kids, you know, on a daily basis. And that may be different for some teachers, you know, because, you know, there may be days where it makes sense for kids to do the exact same thing that they're doing in person as they're doing at home. And there may be days where it does look a little different. But our teachers are obviously trying to maximize that synchronous time for kids when they're home so that it's meaningful and they're following a schedule and they can continue to keep moving forward with curriculum every day. So welcome to those of you who've just jumped in, going through some information here, and then we will have some opportunity for questions at the end. All right, next thing here is the schedule for the cohort. So obviously Monday, Wednesday is continuing to be our cohort A's in-person days. And then cohort B is Tuesday, Thursday in-person days. Everybody is virtual on Fridays, so everybody's continuing to follow that virtual schedule that we've had really all year. So that is staying the same. But really the biggest difference is when students are at home, either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, you know, really they should be hopping on to every single class following that schedule that I just showed you, the bell schedule there, because we are expecting kids to be online for all their classes every day. And then if a teacher has certain expectations where maybe kids wouldn't be online for that whole time, they'll let those students know. But our goal is for students to log on every day. That's how we're taking attendance. And so if your student's not jumping on and being on the online class, they will be marked absent for that period if they're home. There is no check-in feature for attendance anymore. Attendance is being taken based on if you're there in person or if you're there online for the class at home. So some of those expectations for hybrid. Before I do that, there is an adjustment, and I think we shared this in our weekly update, and it was also in the district communication, but just FYI, next week, because we have a holiday on Monday, they have decided to change the schedule so that B cohort stays the same. So B cohort will still come on Tuesday and Thursday, but A cohort will be in person Wednesday and Friday of next week. So Friday of next week, the 19th, is an in-person cohort day for all of our A cohort kids. So there will be no all virtual day next week because Monday is a holiday. So that will be for next week. And then kids at home will be still following the same bell schedule when they're at home those other days and getting on all their classes. All right, so in terms of attendance and expectations, we do have a little bit of a different attendance process before. Before kids were checking in on those days when they were home. But as I mentioned, our attendance as we're going back to hybrid is every kid, every period, they should be logging on when they're home. And so that is an expectation. When kids are supposed to be here in person, so if they're an A cohort Monday, Wednesday, if they're a B cohort Tuesday, Thursday, we are expecting them to be here. We're expecting them to be here in person. The only reason a student should be home is if they are quarantined, if they are isolated due to sickness, or if they have talked to me and we've worked out an agreement where there is a member in your household that lives with you who's at a higher risk for exposure to COVID-19. And that's it, because our teachers are really planning for that in-person instruction 2 days a week. And so if your student, decides to just, I'm not going to go to school today, I'm just going to jump online, they're really going to be missing out on in-person instruction because that's what our teachers are trying to maximize with our kids who are here. Now, we're also synchronizing that with kids who are online at home. But if your kid, rolls out of bed one morning and says, you know what, I don't really feel like going to school today, I'm just going to hop online. That's not, in line with what our expectations are. Our expectations that kids are here, they're in person when they're supposed to be in person. And so if you could help us and make sure that they are here, we want to make sure that they're getting the most out of this. And I know our teachers, like I said, are just trying to maximize that time that they do have kids here in person. So if you could help us with that. And if there's a situation where they're not going to be here and they're going to be attending from home because of sickness or something like that, please still call our attendance line so that we know and we can let our teachers know that, hey, this is the situation why they're home. But when a kid is supposed to be here, we would like to see them here in person, obviously, to maximize that in-person instruction. Jar already mentioned here, so logging in every day, every period when they're at home. And then we also expect that cameras are on. When students are home, I think, there's a tendency, and, of course, we've heard every excuse in the book of, oh, hey, this isn't working, or this isn't working for me. I think, yes, there's legit circumstances where maybe there's some tough technical difficulties, but, we would ask that cameras are on when students are at home joining those classes online, because we want to see those kids who are at home just as much as we want to see the kids who are in person. And I was in multiple classes today where those kids who are at home are participating in classroom discussions and they're sharing things, with the class, and they're just as much of a participant. And so, we want to hear from those students. We want to see those students. And so we do ask that students are with their cameras on for every class and that they're in a well-lit area. You wouldn't believe how many bedrooms we've seen where kids are, in this dark dungeon covered in things. And so it's important they're in a well-lit professional environment because they are attending school and, hopefully they're not just rolling out of bed and logging onto their computer. So I think we'll talk about some of the tips and ideas here in just a second, but those are some of our expectations. All right, so let's talk about some tips for success. So as we saw in the fall with hybrid and kids kind of being on their own on the asynchronous days, we saw a lot of inconsistencies with kids having a normal routine and bedtime at home. With us following the same bell schedule every day, there really shouldn't be a difference with, the kids when they're at home on the at-home days or the in-person days in terms of that bedtime routine, getting up in the same time in the morning. Granted, they don't have to come to school, so maybe their time is a little abbreviated of how long they have to get up before school in the morning. But I think as consistent as it possibly can be. I think we see that really helping students, just get into a rhythm. Your body adjusts to that. But if there's this significant difference in sleep schedules from when they're coming to school in person and when they're attending school from home online, we see obviously that impacts students in a negative way. So keeping that consistency is a huge benefit to your kids. Another thing would be having a dedicated workspace where there's really a freedom from distractions. They've got a quiet place that they can work on. And I know that can be tough when you've got, multiple students at home all on the same days who are working together. So I think that's something we would strongly encourage, in being creative and finding ways to have a dedicated space. And sometimes the bedroom might be the most logical place, but we would ask that it's a well-lit area and they're not just in their bed or something like that joining class, but they're in a professional, space where they can, be focused and, treat it just as seriously as they would be here in person. Our drinking fountains are still turned off as of right now. So we would ask that students bring a water bottle and make sure it's filled up before they come to school each day. And then we do have some water bottle refill stations that they can refill their water bottles at. So we would ask that they continue to do that. And then lastly, the planner is something that we're strongly emphasizing this year, that it's a way for students to stay up to date with what they're supposed to be doing in their classes. That's where our teachers are directing students to write down and record, here's what I need to complete for my classes every day. And so I think that's just something we want to make sure is being reinforced at home as well. And so please help us encourage your students to use their planners to keep in track with what they're supposed to be completing for class every day, because that's a habit we're trying to instill within our kids. Checking Google Classroom every day would be another expectation with that. All right, so let's talk about some opportunities for support. And I believe Mr. Vega, Dennis, is going to talk through some different support opportunities and ways that kids and families can have support during this time.
So what our counseling team has been doing throughout remote and then now through the hybrid period too is just being available for virtual and now in-person meetings with students and parents. If you want to schedule a meeting with us too, you can always find it on the Sagewood website on the counseling tab. You can also, if you're in contact with us through email, we have all of our scheduling links on our signatures on there. And then as far as checking attendance and grades, like over the last few weeks before that transition, we were really trying to hit hard scheduling parent-student meetings so we can, create a plan to bump up those grades. And now that attendance is a little more consistent, hopefully, with the everyday checking in, being in class, that will change as well, instead of the usual, Wednesdays, that one check-in and then, not worrying about it after. Parent and family outreach, we do have some links available again on the Sagewood website. There's a parent and family outreach resource tab with the counseling team. Our whole Ponderosa feeder counselors have been trying to do as well, is launching some parent nights. Like last night we had Dr. Cypers, who is just great. He created this anxiety curriculum for our district, and he gave a presentation for about 100 parents, and it was really, really great. We're kind of having some technical difficulties figuring that out and putting it on our counseling webpage, but that should be up soon. And then we're also looking to do I think it was a college financial planning night sometime soon. And then, more academic support and some other things that, we sent out a parent survey asking, what do you need from us? So those are still in the works as well. And again, as far as resources for families, go on the Sagewood website. And if you have any other individual questions about your student in particular, you're always free to reach out to us through phone or email.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Vega. And that's really all the information we have for tonight. So I know that there could be questions or things that you want to ask, and so you are welcome to put those in our chat. You're also welcome to just unmute yourself and ask whatever questions you might have. But we'd love to, help answer any questions you might have before we end tonight as well. So, what can we answer for you?
I have a question about like a snow day. So if students have a snow day like on Monday, would that makeup day be on a Friday, like if they didn't have school because of a holiday?
That's a great question, Tanya. I think we are still waiting to hear from the district exactly what that's going to be. Up to this point, I know that a snow day was a snow day and it was not a school day still. Okay. I know that could change, but as of right now, a snow day is still a snow day.
Okay, thank you.
What other questions do you have?
I did have a question. I printed off the email you sent when we got back from the holidays, and I noticed that the schedule was off by, like, some of the classes were off by like a minute or two from what you just showed. I mean, it's only a minute, so I'm not that worried about it, but with middle school kids, when I'm looking at the time and they're like, no, I don't have to be on for another minute, Mom. We get into it sometimes, but I guess that was my only question that I thought was off.
Okay. Can you send me what you have there, Patty, and I can cross-reference it and make sure we've got whatever we have accurate?
Yeah, sure thing.
And what was sent home right after break was the schedule that allowed kids who were at home 5 minutes in between passing periods. So we did document it off of one class and then document it the end of one class and the beginning of the other, so that it made a 5 minute passing period. So now that we've gone back to our in-person schedule, you'll see that it is a minute off in both directions.
That's the difference then, Ben.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Can you talk more about the parent-teacher conferences? Is that only for parents that are requesting it, or teachers that are reaching out to parents specifically, kids that are having more of a difficult time? I know because of COVID, things are completely different. I miss meeting all my son's teachers, spending time talking with each one of them and really finding out how, my son is doing at school. And I think the last parent-teacher conferences, it felt like it was more just for kids that were, in dire need of really, really needing help. So if you could just clarify that a little bit better.
Absolutely, Jennifer. So parent-teacher conferences right now are scheduled conferences, and it could be any of those items you listed as far as reasons for that scheduled conference. It could be the team. I know we've got a lot of new students to start this new semester. So some of those conferences are for, really welcoming those new students, having them meet the teachers with the parents, and then talking through what questions the family or the kids might have. Some of it may be, concerns around kids and who may be struggling and want to provide some additional support and create some plans for how we can help that student be successful. Or it could be, a celebration. It could be pulling a student together to have, kind of a rah-rah, get that student, lifted up for all the great work they've been doing. So we felt, because we can't just have an open house to have everybody come in, or, there was some complications with having even just a virtual open house as well, because you wouldn't have that privacy to come in and have a one-on-one conversation with the teacher if it's just an open room where any parent could join. And so that's why we opted for the virtual scheduled conferences with parents. And so please know that this does not mean you can't get feedback from teachers on how your kid is doing. We would absolutely encourage you, if you want to hear some specific feedback on how your student might be doing, you can reach out to teachers, and you could set up a virtual meeting with any teacher during another time, or correspond via email if there's questions that you'd like to get answered. We are absolutely available for that. What other questions do y'all have? All right. Well, we don't have any.
I did have. Sorry, I just thought of something. You were talking about the dark bedrooms and those types of things. If there's an issue with that, like if one teacher is seeing one child consistently being not visible on the screen, is it correct to assume that teacher would eventually then reach out to us parents that this is a challenge, this has been a challenge during the remote or whatever, just because I don't have an extra space for my son to go to. He has to be in his bedroom because that's just how our house is set up. But I haven't heard anything, so I'm making the assumption that everything's good. Sometimes that isn't always the best with middle school kids, and I get that. But so I guess, is that the expectation that we would be notified, or is it? What are the steps for that?
Yeah, if we've got a concern, we'll be reaching out. I think one of the things we've noticed is there are different kids at different times that maybe don't have as ideal of a setup, and we know that. I think, ideally in a perfect world, it'd be a well-lit area that's clean and free of some distractions, but we know that may not always be the case, but that would be our recommendation. But yeah, if there's a concern, we would be reaching out and let parents know, so you would know. So yeah, no news is sometimes good news. You're right.
I always get nervous with a middle school kid at that, but
yeah.
Thanks. And I guess the other question would be, I know it's a long, there's a couple different steps. Has the district prepped you at the middle school level for potentially going back in person, and or have the conversations even started about the fall? I know that's a loaded question, but.
We're all wondering the same things. Corey Wise, our interim superintendent, was actually here today at Sagewood, and we went around and we visited a bunch of classrooms together and talking to teachers. That was a big question that came up from our teachers too, of, when are we going to go back full-time in person, and what does the fall look like? And I know right now what Corey shared with our teachers is there's a real big push, obviously, to get all of our staff vaccinated. And so we are in the process. I think in the next week, Kaiser Permanente has committed something like 2,000 vaccines for school face-to-face staff who work, face-to-face with students. And then they're committing to another 2,000, hopefully the week after that, another 2,000 the week after that. So there's a good chance that we're going to be able to get a huge chunk of our staff vaccinated, possibly even before spring break. Again, all of that's subject to supply of the vaccine and if that will continue. I mean, as of right now, next week looks pretty good. We'll see what the supply is the week after that. But, if we were to get everybody vaccinated, I know that's been a big concern of going back full time of, are we going to have the vaccine before then? And obviously elementary is back full time right now, and they haven't all received the vaccine. So I think that's one of the things they're working on, and we'll see. They have not had a date or a timeline for this is what we're shooting for to go back full time. I would be very surprised if it was before spring break. I think we're definitely most likely going to be in hybrid at least through spring break, if not longer after spring break. But I would be very surprised if we were looking at coming back full time before spring break. So, I think we'll have to wait and see. I think every board meeting, of course, we're what's going to be the new, timeline or date that's thrown out there then. And, that's tough for all of us because, we would like something consistent that we could plan for. Elementary staff do have superpowers, Mr. Harrell. So yeah, we are waiting, obviously, for vaccines, and then I think that would help tremendously. But we'll find out. I mean, Corey today said he very much expects us to be as close to back to normal as possible in the fall and next school year. A lot of that will depend on some of that, how much of our students and families are getting vaccines as well. So I think that's going to help if we can get as much of that kind of herd immunity as possible, but we will see. I know that's what we're all wondering about, though, for sure. 8th grade continuation ceremony. So we will be, obviously figuring out what that looks like. Having hundreds of people all together in the gym at Ponderosa most likely would not be happening at this point. But yeah, I would love to be able to figure out a way to still have a meaningful event for our 8th graders. They deserve that. And so, yeah, we will be planning something and communicating that out to families. I know we've had some other folks jump on. We're kind of in a Q&A session right now. So other questions that you guys have or things that we can answer for you. And if you don't have any, you are welcome to enjoy the rest of your evening and don't feel like you have to stay on. But if you want to stay on and think somebody else might have a similar question, you're welcome to stay on. So